Hello and welcome to another episode of Brainstorm EDH. My name is Ike, and I want this channel to offer some fun, casual commander deck building ideas, in order to brainstorm over the many possible commanders throughout Magic's awesome history. Nothing competitive, just for fun with friends, and as you'll notice, there's no particular budget we're working off of, it's just whatever we find fun. As with every deck, everyone will have their own preferences regarding what cards they'll include within their deck, so please take the recommendations within this video as simply suggestions. If you have any suggestions to offer the community regarding the commander we're about to discuss, then please comment on the video and tell us what they are. So lately, I've been doing deck building videos almost entirely around aggressive decks, but we're going to change that up today. Today, we're going to go over a deck list for Birgi, God of Storytelling. This deck is a combo deck, and is focused entirely on assembling a game-winning combination of cards as quickly as possible. Birgi is, in my opinion, a great introductory commander to combo decks, if that's ever something you might want to try out. And now, let's introduce today's commander. Birgi is a modal dual-face card, meaning that it has two sides, and you can choose which side of the card you want to cast. For this deck, we only care about the front side, but the other side of the card, Harnfell, Horn of Bounty, is definitely good as well. We just won't be focusing on it for this deck. Birgi costs 2 generic mana and 1 red mana, is a 3/3 god, and has 2 abilities, but we only care about the first one. It reads, whenever you cast a spell, add 1 red mana to your mana pool. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. This ability is very powerful, and almost the entire deck will be relying heavily on it, being full of all the 1-mana cantrips or card draw spells that exist in the color red, enabling us to hopefully cast multiple in a row while our commander is on the battlefield. We'll be focusing completely around digging for winning combo pieces, of which our deck will have several, to ensure that we have backup plans if an opponent is able to stop any one of them. The deck building categories we'll be running with this time are card draw, ramp, interaction, value, digging, endless digging, and finally combo pieces. Firstly, let's talk about card draw. This category contains Into the Fire, Jessica's Will, The One Ring, and Wheel of Misfortune. This category is significantly smaller than any of my other decks, but that's okay. We're going to be running a bunch of cantrips in this deck instead. We'll cover the cantrips in later categories. If you happen to own a copy of Wheel of Fortune, then definitely replace Wheel of Misfortune with it. Next up, Ramp, which is also not a large category. It just contains Arcane Signet, Mox Amber, Mox Opal, and Soul Ring. And just for clarity, Mox Opal is only here because I was lucky enough to open it in a booster pack. Felwar Stone is a fine budget card to fill in this slot. Mox Amber and Mox Opal both cost 0 mana, which pairs very well with our commander. When we cast them, Birgi will add a red mana to our mana pool, thus granting us 1 free mana. This is a great boost whenever it comes up. We actually don't need a lot of ramp in this deck, since we want to devote all of our available mana to digging through our deck, not casting mana rocks. It may sound odd, but it's definitely true, and works very well. Next is interaction. This includes Chaos Warp, Deflecting Swat, Pyroblast, Red Elemental Blast, Ricochet Trap, Tybalt's Trickery, and Will's Reversal. Notice, this category is not called removal. The cards here should only be used to protect our combo pieces, or stop an opponent from winning. With this being a mono red deck, we do not have many ways to recur our combo pieces out of the graveyard, so we need to do our best to try and protect them. Also, just in case anyone isn't aware of this, cards such as Deflecting Swat can change the target of an opponent's counterspell to Deflecting Swat. which will cause the counterspell to fizzle and protect whatever spell we have on the stack that our opponent was trying to counter. Our next category is value. Here we have Commander's Plate, Conqueror's Flail, Crystal Ball, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Elixir of Immortality, Krark the Thumbless, Swiftfoot Boots, Mana Geyser, and the Underworld Cookbook. Now things start to get interesting. Commander's Plate and Swiftfoot Boots will be used to protect our commander, as it is required for almost all of our combos to work. Due to a couple of our spells requiring a creature of ours to target, such as Ryle, I wouldn't recommend running Lightning Greaves. Crystal Ball and Dragon's Rage Channeler are great ways to help us repeatedly dig through our deck. Elixir of Immortality and the Underworld Cookbook are our only sources of some manner of recursion, so we need to only utilize them when absolutely necessary. Krark the Thumbless is phenomenal with Birgi, as it makes our 1-mana instant and sorcery cantrips guaranteed to be copied. The way it works is, with Birgi and Krark on the battlefield, we cast a 1-mana cantrip. Birgi's and Krark's triggered abilities both trigger, and it doesn't matter in what order we place them on the stack. Birgi adds 1 red mana to our mana pool, and Krark has us flip a coin. If we lose the coin flip, the cantrip is returned to our hand. We then use the red mana floating in our mana pool to recast the cantrip that was sent to our hand, and we repeat this whole process until we win the coin flip. Once we win the coin flip, it'll get copied, and we'll draw 2 cards instead of 1 from our cantrip being copied. Mana Geyser ought to be saved until we have the combo pieces in our hand, but require more mana to pull off the combo all at once in a single turn. Conqueror's Flail could potentially be what wins us the game, by preventing our opponents from stopping our game-winning combos during our turn. And now we arrive at Digging. This category has been dubbed this due to the cantrips therein drawing us 1 card and leaving us with no mana floating in our mana pool after we draw a card. The cards here are Furnace Skull Bomb, Implement of Combustion, Jack-o'-lantern, Panic Spellbomb, Pyrite Spellbomb, Scrabbling Claws, Scroll of Avacyn, Soul Guide Lantern, and Vexing Bauble. Let's walk through an example of casting one of these spells. Let's say Vexing Bauble. With Birgi on the battlefield, we cast Vexing Bauble, which triggers Birgi and adds 1 red mana to our mana pool. Using the 1 floating red mana from Birgi, we activate Vexing Bauble's activated ability, drawing us a card. We now have no red mana in our mana pool, and we end up drawing 1 card. This is the second greatest category for digging through our deck as quickly as possible. The next category is what Birgi is best known for, which I call Endless Digging. This category is full of spells that not only draw us cards, but leave us with 1 red mana in our mana pool afterwards. The cards we'll be running here are Ancestral Anger, Chromatic Sphere, Chromatic Star, Conjurer's Bauble, Crash Through, Crimson Wisps, Dragon Mantle, Expedite, Faithless Looting, Might of the Meek, Overmaster, Renegade Tactics, Ryle, Warlord's Fury, and finally Winds of Change. Once again, let's walk through an example. We have Birgi on the battlefield, and we cast Might of the Meek, let's say, targeting Birgi. Birgi will trigger on casting Might of the Meek, adding 1 red mana to our mana pool. Upon resolution of Might of the Meek, we'll draw a card. We now have drawn a card and still have 1 red mana floating in our mana pool to use on hopefully another 1 mana spell. The dream is chaining spell after spell after spell by continuously drawing more cantrips. This category is the greatest tool at our disposal to dig through our deck. There do exist some cards such as Mishra's Bauble, which cost either 0 or 1 mana. However, they draw us cards at the beginning of the next turn, not the turn they're played, which doesn't really help us. Therefore, they are not included here. And now, the real fun begins with the combo pieces category. After listing off the cards, I'll walk you through all the possible combos. The cards we'll be including here are Aetherflux Reservoir, Altar of the Brood, Dualcaster Mage, Experimental Frenzy, Fire Nation Archers, Flamekin Harbinger, Grapeshot, Hazoret's Monument, Impact Tremors, Imperial Recruiter, Moonveil Regent, Perforos, God of the Forge, Runaway Steamkin, Sensei's Divining Top, Roaming Throne, Twin Flame, Valakut Invoker, and last but certainly not least, Grinning Ignis. Let's start by discussing Grinning Ignis, which actually can go infinite with Birgi. Here's the playthrough. With Birgi on the battlefield, we cast Grinning Ignis, which triggers Birgi and adds 1 red mana to our mana pool. Grinning Ignis hopefully resolves and enters the battlefield. Now we use our 1 floating red mana in our mana pool to activate Grinning Ignis' activated ability, returning Grinning Ignis to our hand and adding 2 colorless mana and 1 red mana to our mana pool. We then use the 2 colorless mana and 1 red mana to recast Grinning Ignis, and repeat this entire process as many times as we wish. This means infinite cast triggers, infinite storm count, and infinite enter the battlefield triggers. A storm count, by the way, is simply a tracker on how many spells have been cast in a single turn. The spells that combine with Birgi and Grinning Ignis are Aetherflux Reservoir, which will grant us infinite life by casting Grinning Ignis an infinite number of times, and then can be activated to nuke our opponents an infinite number of times. Altar of the Brood, which will mill our opponents' entire libraries from Grinning Ignis infinitely entering the battlefield. Grapeshot, which we would cast after casting Grinning Ignis an infinite number of times in order to build up an infinite storm count and thus being copied an infinite number of times to then deal an infinite amount of damage to our opponents. Impact Tremors and Perforos, God of the Forge, which will damage our opponents an infinite number of times from Grinning Ignis entering the battlefield an infinite number of times. Hazoret's Monument, Runaway Steamkin, and Roaming Throne, which we will use to produce an infinite amount of mana by recasting Grinning Ignis an infinite number of times to then activate Fire Nation Archers and or Valakut Invoker an infinite number of times, dealing infinite damage to our opponents. Hazoret's Monument can also be used on its own with Birgi and Grinning Ignis in order to draw however many cards we want until we draw a game-winning combo piece. Moonveil Regent enables us to draw however many cards we want with Birgi and Grinning Ignis until we find that final combo piece. In addition, we can just use Moonveil Regent on its own to draw more cards off of our cantrips when we really need to. Flamekin Harbinger and Imperial Recruiter basically act as second and third copies of Grinning Ignis, as it is our primary win condition. Imperial Recruiter can also act as a second copy of Dualcaster Mage when we need it. Beyond these ridiculously silly combos, with Birgi on the battlefield, we can also use Experimental Frenzy and Sensei's Divining Top to draw as many cards as we want, thus guaranteeing that we can combo off and win, as long as we have sufficient mana ready to go. This works by having Birgi on the battlefield along with Experimental Frenzy and Sensei's Divining Top. We activate Sensei's Divining Top's second activated ability, which will draw us a card and put Sensei's Divining Top on top of our library. We then spend a mana to replay Sensei's Divining Top from the top of our library via Experimental Frenzy, which will trigger Birgi and add 1 red mana to our mana pool. Next, we activate Sensei's Divining Top's second activated ability again to draw another card. Using the floating red mana in our mana pool, we then replay Sensei's Divining Top from the top of our library with Experimental Frenzy, which triggers Birgi again, and thus we can continue as many times as we please. After doing this, we activate Experimental Frenzy's activated ability, which will destroy it and enable us to play the cards from our hand. There is another combo in this deck, just in case someone is able to stop our Gritting Ignis combos. It involves Dualcaster Mage and Twin Flame. The combo goes like this. With any one creature on our battlefield, we cast Twin Flame, targeting said creature. With Twin Flame on the stack, before it resolves, we cast Dualcaster Mage, which will hopefully resolve. After resolving, Dualcaster Mage will enter the battlefield, which will trigger its triggered ability, allowing us to target Twin Flame and set the new target of the copied Twin Flame as the Dualcaster Mage that's now on the battlefield. The copy of Twin Flame will target Dualcaster Mage, which will then create a new Enter the Battlefield trigger that we can again use to target the original Twin Flame that's still on the stack because it hasn't resolved yet. Remember, spells and abilities on the stack resolve one at a time, and we can respond to something that's still on the stack after other abilities or spells have already resolved. We then continue to create an infinite number of Twin Flame copies, which will then create an infinite number of Dualcaster Mages with haste that we can use to attack our opponents and win via combat. It's important to note that this Twin Flame Dualcaster Mage combo can also win when paired with Altar of the Brood, Impact Tremors, and Perforos God of the Forge. That was a lot of information, but we're still not done with our win conditions. The next category is lands, which includes Desert of the Fervent, Forgotten Cave, Inventor's Fair, Roadside Reliquary, Smoldering Crater, the Autonomous Furnace, Treasure Vault, Urza's Saga, Valakut Awakening, Valakut the Molten Pinnacle, War Room, Tyrite Sanctum, Den of the Bugbear, and 20 Mountains. The first thing to notice is all the lands that can draw us cards, either via cycling or an activated ability. This can be very helpful to keep us from stalling in our digging efforts. Urza's Saga should almost always be used to tutor for Altar of the Brood, as it's a game-winning card when paired with either of our primary combos involving Gritting Ignis or Dualcaster Mage. Treasure Vault can be used to turn our infinite colorless mana, which we can generate by casting Gritting Ignis an infinite number of times while Birgi and Hazoret's Monument are on the battlefield, into infinite treasure tokens, thus granting us infinite colored mana. Infinite colored mana can be attained either by this method or by casting Gritting Ignis an infinite number of times with Birgi and Runaway Steamkin or Roaming Throne on the battlefield. This is important not only for Fire Nation Archers or Valakut Invoker, but for Den of the Bugbear, which is an almost hidden win condition. You see, Den of the Bugbear has an activated ability, which costs 3 generic mana and 1 red mana, and reads, until end of turn, Den of the Bugbear becomes a 3/2 red goblin creature with, whenever this creature attacks, create a 1/1 red goblin creature token that's tapped and attacking. It's still a land. Here's the trick. However many times we activate that ability is how many instances our land gains of the ability that creates 1/1 goblin tokens. Thus, if we activate Den of the Bugbear's activated ability an infinite number of times, then whenever we attack, we'll actually create an infinite number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens that are tapped and attacking all of our opponents. Notice, the tapped and attacking goblin token created does not specify an opponent it must attack. Therefore, we can attack each opponent with an infinite number of 1/1 goblin tokens simply by attacking any one of our opponents with Den of the Bugbear. It's vital to point out, however, that if you activate Den of the Bugbear's activated ability the same turn it comes out, then it will have Summoning Sickness. So be sure to not give away what we're trying to do with it until our next turn after playing it. And Tyrite Sanctum is another source of protection for Birgi. With all that covered, let's go over gameplay. This deck may seem extremely complex, but it's truly much easier than it may sound. The goal is to play a winning combo on our turn all at once, and we'll achieve this by digging through our deck rapidly with all of our cantrips, Sensei's Divining Top and Experimental Frenzy combo, Moonveil Regent plus Birgi plus Grinning Ignis combo, Hazoret's Monument plus Birgi plus Grinning Ignis combo, and or card draw spells. It will certainly take some practice, but it's very doable, and a great way to test the waters of the world of combo decks. I enjoy playing this deck so much that with every new set released, I actively look forward to hopefully seeing endless digging cards to replace digging cards. If you try this deck out, I wish you luck. May you combo off quickly and be unstoppable while doing it. And with that, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you found this helpful. Are there cards you'd include that I didn't mention? Let me know in the comments. Do you disagree with any of my inclusions? Feel free to let me know. As mentioned, this channel is dedicated to brainstorming all the possibilities. So if you have any brainstorming to add in yourself, please do so. Have a great day, and I hope to have you all tune in again for the next video.